I just watched some commentary from Uncle Phil of the African Diaspora Network, where he was talking about Marcel Dixon and his race, his primary race, against Jim Clyburn. He said some good points, but I want to push back on a couple of things. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. So first and foremost, Marcel Dixon ran a hard-fought race, brought up some great issues. I appreciate what he did. I appreciate him standing up to somebody who is such an entrenched figure, such a powerful figure in United States national politics as James Clyburn, and stand on certain issues, stand on Black issues. He put reparations and actually being committed to improving the situation of Black communities at the forefront of his messaging, which was a great thing. And it's something I definitely think needs to be pushed continuously and even further. I applaud what the brother did. Uncle Phil did a breakdown, and one of the things he focused on was Bakari Sellouts, and Bakari Sellouts, or as he calls him, Bakari Sellout, Bakari Sellouts and Marcel Dixon's interaction on Twitter. So it got chippy with Bakari Sellouts, all this online social media rah-rah, and getting waxed at the polls. Marcel didn't take too kindly and responded with some venom to him, with some fire, some heat. So they went back and forth, and Bakari at one point offers to take Marcel Dixon to lunch to talk about some things. Of course, people are like, oh yeah, he's trying to get him to sell out and that kind of thing. And I hear you. I listened to what Uncle Phil had to say, and Uncle Phil was breaking it down how Bakari himself had lost races, how he's just a stooge for the Democratic Party and not really interested in actually doing anything for Black people. In fact, he went and pulled up some footage of Jim Clyburn talking about how, oh, I don't want anything from Joe Biden. I don't need anything. And he was highlighting a mentality amongst many that they're afraid to stand on Black issues. They're afraid to say, hey, we demand something for us. And he talked about the older Black generation just being content with, oh, just give us a Social Security checks and not even worrying about what's needed for the younger generations. And guess what? I'm 1,000% in agreement with Uncle Phil on that, because that's something I've noticed, that older generations, we have failed our younger generations. Time and time again, we've given more power to the government to wreak havoc within our communities, and then we wonder, oh, what happened? Go back to the 80s and the 90s with the crime bills and the crack laws, and how many older Black people were supporting the government coming in and just demolishing our communities, and then seeing the negative effect and saying, oh, how did this happen? And Joe Biden, the scumbag that he is, says, you told me to do it. Now, that's not entirely accurate, because they came to these Black communities and said, hey, we need to do something. This is what we need to do. Just sign on this dotted line. Tell us to do it. So it wasn't something that Black people just came up with on their own, but it was a plan that outside interest had, brought it to these past generations, these older generations, and they co-signed it. So that's where their fault is. Their fault was in saying, okay, we'll do anything. Just fix it. Because they lacked the resolve, they lacked the will, they lacked the intelligence, the dedication, and the ability to say, no, if there's a problem in our communities, we fix it. That was their job. But they failed to, just the weakness and the willingness to sell out future generations of predominantly young Black men, young Black women who didn't fare well either in the fact that there were still young Black women being locked up. And in the cases of young Black women that weren't being locked up, these are their boyfriends, their husbands, these are fathers of their children being locked up and leaving them destitute and alone. It completely screwed over entire generations of Black people. I agree with Uncle Phil wholeheartedly on how older generations have failed younger generations. He offered a possible solution. His solution was that even though Marcel lost in this local election, he says a lot of Marcel's support came from outside of South Carolina. He says that support can be very influential with these coming midterms, and we can engage in a strategy of either sitting out or voting for Republicans. And he says, oh, a bunch of people get scared, like, oh, no, you said Republican. And yes, I definitely agree that this automatic reaction to, oh, Republicans bad, is not beneficial, is not even just, it's a lack of thought in terms of we need to be examining, okay, what are they offering? Because if they're actually offering something, it might be a good time to hear them out. We also want to make sure that they actually have the means and the intention to deliver. But this is what's key. What if they're not offering anything? Do we cut off our nose to spite our face? This is one of the places where I have to push back against Uncle Phil. But I want to start with Bakari Sellouts. I can understand Bakari being flippant and then wanting to respond in kind to him. But I think we've got to be thinking strategically. And my suggestion to Marcel would have been, you want to go to lunch? Let's hear what you're talking about. Go into this lunch with the idea, with the mindset, okay, there's specific things I want to see happen. But I want to know what Bakari Sellouts' vision is for South Carolina, for District 6, for South Carolina as a state, and for Black America throughout the country. I want to know what his vision is, because that will establish if there's any possibility to work with him in the future. Because this is what we have to realize. Yes, there is a system that is working against us. Yes, there are many Black people who are working with that system and within that system for whatever reasons. But the third thing we have to realize is, what are their reasons? Because just because they're working in the system, within the system, with the system, doesn't mean they are fully committed and dedicated to that system. Because guess what? How many of us pay taxes? That's supporting the system. We have to realize that there's levels to this stuff, that there are levels, and that in this case, if Bakari is reaching out, hear him out, find out where his head is at, see if there's any potential to work with him in getting certain things accomplished. You got to find out. Automatically dismissing him is not in the best interest of accomplishing certain things. That's my opinion. It does go deeper, because now I want to address what Uncle Phil said about sitting out, and not just sitting out, about voting for Republicans. You see, I've been studying Republicans for some time now. And I know that despite the fact that Democrats are providing lip service to Black communities and then doing nothing for us, I know Republicans are actually worse. Let me explain. Republicans refuse to even provide lip service. So they want to do nothing for Black communities while also openly disrespecting us. That's a problem. That's not something to support. That's not something to reward. But just take a look. They will have your Candace Owens, your Brandon Tatums, your Larry Elders. They will take these clowns. They will take these anti-Black scumbags and prop them up. They will get these Black faces who will speak the most vile, the most negative and untrue stuff about Black people and Black communities and prop these up as, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to say. This is how you need to behave to gain our acceptance. Under no circumstances can we support that. Yes, I'm not saying that means we support the Democrats. I'm saying under no circumstances, if talking nice to us while sticking a knife in our back is unacceptable, talking shit to us while sticking a knife in our chest is also unacceptable. Neither of those are viable options. This is where strategy comes in. This is where the knowledge comes in. This is where political education comes in. Like somebody commented on the video I did about Marcel Dixon. Oh, so you just saw Marcel and you jump on a bandwagon, want to talk about politics. Now all of a sudden you're a political strategist. I look at this comment and I'm like, okay, I can't take you seriously. Let me tell you why I can't take this individual seriously. Because this individual obviously does zero research. None. Not even an attempt at research. Because if this individual just looked at my channel in the past 3 weeks, he would see politics, little entertainment stuff here, but he would see just so much politics on my channel. He go, oh, I didn't just start talking politics. Now, that's just in the past 3 weeks. he could go back a year and see me talking politics. He could see videos that I've done specifically talking about black leadership. And guess who's in the thumbnail? Clyburn, James Clyburn, because James Clyburn was one of the individuals I talked about in that video as acting as an enemy to the black community. What makes me a political strategist? Well, I've been involved in politics for real. I've run for office for real. Guess what? I lost. That's another thing I need to say. There is like a knee-jerk reaction of not wanting to accept the fact that Marcel Dixon lost. He lost. He ran against Jim Clyburn in the primary and lost. There's no shame in admitting the truth. There is a level of wanting to delude ourselves into, oh, it's not a loss. Oh no, this is the beginning. Just because it's a loss doesn't mean it's the end. But not even wanting to acknowledge the objective reality that you didn't win the election, that you didn't win the primary is not helpful. Yes, I ran for office. I lost. I'm not the mayor of New York City. That's a fact. Now, what do I do with that information? What did I learn in my race? What did I learn about what we need to be doing in order to get certain things accomplished? So let me tell you one of the things we need to do. We need to realize there are more than two parties. I'll say it again. There are more than two parties. Now we need to be looking at some of these other parties that already exist and what are their platforms. Can we work with the Greens? Can we work with the Libertarians? These are the things we need to. And if you decide, like in South Carolina, if you go to South Carolina Libertarians or you go to South Carolina Greens and you're like, you know what? Can't work with either of them. Cool. What does it take to get a third party established? What are the rules? What are the requirements? Because this is one of the ways we make our presence felt. In terms of if the Democrats are garbage and the Republicans are basura, guess what? We start our own thing. We go a different way. The world is not binary. There are more than two options, and we need to be taking advantage of our other options. I'm going to be doing a video talking more about potential strategies of what to go forward, but I wanted to just address that because the idea that the Republicans, who are doing even less on behalf of black people and being openly disrespectful and contemptuous of black people, is absolutely not an acceptable option. As always, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. But if you disagree with me, if you think, no, if we vote for Republicans, that'll send a message to Democrats, let me know. Go ahead and hit the thumbs down button, but let me know what kind of message will that send to the Republicans who are talking mess about us. I'll see you next time.